Climate activists have long been waging their struggle against global warming by going directly after corporations. That was the case with the recent opening of a new retail branch in the Boston area by Chase Bank. To tell us about the action and the message is the co-chair of A Better Future Project, Dr. Sue Donaldson. Thank you very much for being with us, Doctor.
Pleasure.
Of course, you're also the leader of volunteers with 350 Massachusetts. Let's start with global warming, because people might be saying, well, is this a big deal right now? I mean, what's been going on recently that we should connect with climate change here in Boston?
Almost any day you can pick up the paper and read something. This has just been the hottest July on record. We're having massive heat waves in Greenland and the Arctic. There are wildfires in the Arctic. That's particularly scary because Arctic ice has the potential for being part of a feedback loop. The ice melts, there's less reflection of sunlight, the sunlight is absorbed, the heat is absorbed, there's more warming. I think the things that happened last year, the wildfires, the flooding this spring, these are all part and parcel of global warming, or the climate crisis, as we call it. And things are happening now that we didn't think would happen for some decades. Things are happening faster than predicted. We are pretty consistently on the worst of the possible paths that have been projected. And we are nowhere near taking the kind of action that needs to happen to stop this.
So when the melting ice makes the sea levels rise, that's not going to happen uniformly. And as I recall, I think this part of the country is especially vulnerable to that.
That's correct, yeah. We will have, I think our sea level rise will be faster than in other places for a variety of complicated reasons.
Well, you took your protest recently against Chase Bank. They invest in fossil fuels. I imagine a lot of big banks do that. So what's so special about Chase?
Early this year, a report came out that was put together by a variety of groups, including the Sierra Club and Rainforest Action Network, that looked at the funding of fossil fuel industry across the board. And this is in line with sort of our theory that we can't just attack the fossil fuel people like ExxonMobil. We have to attack or at least undermine the people who support them and hold them up. This report said that Chase was far and away the worst bank in the world in terms of funding the fossil fuel industry. It is a third ahead of the second closest bank, which is Wells Fargo in terms of overall funding, and it is 2/3 ahead of the second closest bank in terms of funding the extraction industry, which is total craziness because we can't even afford to burn the fossil fuels that we've already found, and they're still looking for more. So we're going after Chase because it's the worst. It has put way more money in than any other bank in the world. Because you have to focus on one bank because you can't focus on everybody. And if Chase were to back off on this, as they did on funding private prisons recently, other banks would pretty much have to follow suit because otherwise, well, Chase is the bank that isn't funding climate change. So,
of course, the other thing about banks, whether it's Chase or JP Morgan Chase maybe, they make loans on people who buy homes, and some of those homes are in flood zones. I mean, don't they have to worry about that?
One would think.
But anyhow, talk about the protest. What was going on out there? This was in Newton, I guess, right?
That's right. Chase is in the midst of a major move into the Boston area, and they've been opening branches almost every few weeks. They are planning to open about 50 plus branches in the next year or so. So we have tried to greet some of the larger new branches with our protest to let people in that area know that if they choose to bank in that particular Chase, this is what they're choosing. So we haven't done civil disobedience, and this is a national campaign. They're doing it in other cities, and in other cities they have shut down branches. They've gone in and done civil disobedience. We haven't done that yet, but we do a certain amount of street theater. So yesterday we figured it was July, it was going to be a hot day, so we put up 2 doorways, one pretty much in front of the Chase doorway that said, "This door, profit over planet," and another doorway right next to it with a lemonade stand behind it that said, "This doorway, a cooler future." And we gave out leaflets at that table. So we're emphasizing to people, you have a choice. You can go into Chase or you can go somewhere else. And we did a lot of things that sort of, we had a lot of signs that talked about how hot it was and do you really want it to be hotter than this and like that. So it's partly you need to engage and entertain people to get their attention. We had a tuba and we had a mini brass band and we paraded around Newton Center. But the message is a serious one, which is you have a choice where to put your money. And if you put it here, you are funding the climate crisis.
Well, I know sometimes putting a spotlight on something can change the way money is invested. Mm-hmm. But what about consumers? I mean, consumers say, hey, I don't have a whole lot of money. What difference does it make?
It's like, I only have one vote. Why should I bother to vote? You know, it's everything makes a difference. But also, you know, this we trust gets back to Chase. We put it on social media. We had people sign letters to the bank manager and to CEO Jamie Dimon, take them into the bank. That at some point gets back. That's the idea of a campaign, is that if Chase gets the idea that this is giving them a bad name, that might be.
We should mention, if people want to keep up with what you're doing or any developments around this particular campaign, is there a way they can do that online?
Let me think. We are actually a subgroup called Climate Courage. This is our direct action wing. So I suppose you could Google that. We don't have a big web presence for this particular group at the moment.
Thank you very much for being with us.
It's a pleasure.
Dr. Sue Donaldson from A Better Future Project.